SABC News presentation.
Good evening to you. A warm welcome to Interface this Sunday. One of the big stories this past week has been what's happening in the platinum mining sector. The Mineral Resources Portfolio Committee in Parliament heard how the sector is suffering from low demand, high electricity costs and labour unrest. Now tonight on Interface we ask, has the sector reached its tipping point? Our guests are Mineral Resources Minister Suzan Shabangu, the Vice President of the Chamber of Mines, Khanyisile Kweyama, and Senzeni Zokwana, who is with the National Union of Mine Workers. Remember that you can also join our discussion by sending an SMS to 33726. Unfortunately, our Facebook page is down for today, but we are welcoming your SMSs, 33726. Welcome to all three of you. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very much.
We talked about a tipping point for the platinum mining sector. Have we reached that proverbial point, do you think?
Close enough. I think you rightfully point out to events around the labour unrest, but even before that, the industry was under severe pressure with the global recession, which, as you know, is not a few months ago, it's a couple of years back. There has been the issues of demand that have been having an effect on the platinum industry specifically. If I may just take you a little through the uses of platinum as an example, the auto catalyst industry is one where platinum is used.
That's the one we hear the most of.
That's the one you hear the most of. Now, with the recession, people buy less cars, in the simplest form to put it. So the demand of the material that goes into making the cars is less.
But with the changes that we've been seeing, you know, picking up of economic activity, is that still the case in the car sector or manufacturing sector?
It still is relatively low. It does pick up year on year, but if you can go back when there is a recession, the demand drops quite significantly. And as it starts rising again, but it's not as the same pace as when it dropped. Then the other use is jewellery, of course, and once again, when funds are low, luxuries are the fewest things used. Unfortunately, they are. Yes. And then people get alternative ways, they recycle, so that even the platinum that goes in there, it's recycled, which means it's slightly cheaper than what we produce and all the costs around there that different miners produce. So it had come to a point in the country specifically, the past couple of months have been unstable in terms of production because of the labour unrest and other factors as well. You alluded to electricity costs, which I think even as citizens we have seen that the increases have been quite high, and mining requires quite a lot of energy in terms of costs.
Minister, there was a huge upset when Anglo Plats announced that they're planning to lay off about 14,000 workers. The government, the ANC, and you in particular were reportedly very upset about that. There was talk of them having to surrender their license. Just take us through what's happened since that time and where we are now with those discussions.
Well, we have started engaging with the company, and I am satisfied that with the processes which you've put in place, and I've agreed to find solutions in addressing the 14,000 workers and find means which will, if possible, ensure that we avoid any job losses, but also looking at other alternatives which might also assist in making sure that these workers are able to continue to provide for their families. That's where we are. We are engaging with the company. There is other processes through the Department of Labour, but we have agreed with the company that we'll have bilaterals with them as the Department of Mineral Resources in really trying to find means and ways of addressing what faces us, not only Anglo Plats, but us as a country. We can't afford to lose 14,000 jobs. It means more families will go hungry.
But then we get reports that the CEO of Anglo Plats, Chris Griffith, has said, we've run out of ideas. We are open to suggestions, but we really don't know what else can be done besides laying off these workers. What are you telling this company and also the sector as a whole?
Well, he might have run out of ideas. We have not run out of ideas. As government, we are engaging that is why we're talking, because we believe that we've got to look at various aspects. The issues you're raising about electricity, it does not only affect Amplat, it affects the whole mining industry, affects the whole platinum sector. As government, we've alluded that there are challenges when it comes to high electricity cost, but not only for the mining industry, just broadly, including for us as consumers. Hence, there was an engagement with NERSA in finding means and ways of ensuring that we can talk about creating jobs. At the same time, we lose so many jobs, in the sense that there are high electricity costs. So we've got to find a balance. So it's some of the issues which we're talking to. But also we're looking at how best the company can find means and ways of addressing itself. We've engaged Productivity South Africa as one of the institutions which specializes in areas of productivity. Part of that is to make sure that we are able to say, indeed, is the company operating optimally in a way that it loses a lot or suffer from losses, or we need to look at other means.
But Minister, realistically, what are you saying to these companies? Because as Usisi said earlier, we've got high electricity costs. Are you saying to Eskom, bring down electricity costs? Is that a point that you're addressing? You've got the low demand for platinum. You know, that's a key factor. You've got the labor unrest. So what are the key bullet points that you are telling the industry?
Well, we are engaging on all these issues, but some of them, you know, we all agree that we've lost 37% of our market in Europe.
Yes.
But it's not, we're also establishing new markets. We're talking about BRICS. We're talking about looking at the East. Those are the new opportunities. So we're looking at all these factors as some of the mitigating factors for us to be able to move forward. So part of our process with Anglo Plats, give us space, then we'll come back to you. We don't want to negotiate in public. We really want to continue engaging confidentially, but also sharing matters frankly. And I think when we are ready, we'll be able to go public on the outcome, but also on the basis of us sharing whatever it's there. Because for now we're engaging, but we can't go public. That's not fair. You know, when you engage, we engage in confidence, but also we need to be frank to each other. That frankness must happen in a way that no one feels that there's also a mistrust or a breach of trust between the parties.
All right, we'll watch this space and we will keep in contact with you to see what has transpired in that. But the labor, a key factor in the negotiations and in the issues that have been raised by this particular company and by the sector as a whole. Do you think that as unions you have played your part in trying to find a solution, or have you been very much part of the problem?
Labour has been part of the debates to find a solution. But the question would be, have we been together in doing that? One of the problems I think we're here today is to say companies can prosper where there's stability, where there's peace. Unions should learn to coexist and talk to members to join them. But no force should be used such that people just go on strike any time they feel like their demand is not met. The law of this country is seen to be the best in the world. It enshrines the right of people to use their right to strike, but within the confines of the law.
But the rivalry or the presumed rivalry between the National Union of Mine Workers and AMCU in particular is well documented. We've had representatives from both unions in this very studio talking about the issues there. Is there any hope that you will get some kind of solution to try and work together, or are you pursuing another route now?
The NUM is part of those who have been part of finding the solution under apartheid in this country. We believe that talking is the key. As we have been meeting through the minister since last week Tuesday, and all parties were together, except that when we were to sign, AMCU was part. From the first day, the second day, they only failed to come, or they were delayed to arrive during the day.
You've been very diplomatic. Was it not a public snub to say, we've heard what you've got to say, we're not signing?
I believe that we need not lose hope very quickly, because AMCO is better placed. It is also in their benefit, by the way, to find this, because they represent members who have got family members. If we don't find a solution of making the mine to run profitable, to run efficiently, to run without violence, we will be in a way contributing to job losses. Notwithstanding these problems, the company the chamber has come up to say, or the chamber have said, are facing them. What has been worse with the fact that strikes that are not been planned, violence have been used, even create doubts to those who would work with us. Remember, platinum is mined for use.
Sure.
You don't mine platinum like gold. Therefore, you must make sure that people who use platinum can have confidence in buying it. Therefore, the role of trade unions is to ensure that the right of members are negotiated. You can negotiate with an employer who is producing profitable. You can negotiate where there's peace and stability.
Okay, we've got to take a break, and we get your point, and the investor confidence that you've brought up, that's what we want to discuss right after the break. Remember that we do welcome your SMSs, 33726. We're back after this. Welcome back. You're watching Interface here on SABC 3. My guests tonight in studio are Mineral Resources Minister Suzan Shabangu, the Vice President of the Chamber of Mines, and also we have Mr. Senzeni Zokwana, who is with the National Union of Mine Workers. Kanyisile Kweyama is the Vice President of the Chamber of Mines. 33726, that's how you keep in touch. And before the break, we're talking about investor confidence and how all of this is affecting the people that are supposed to be buying this mineral from us, that's platinum. Minister, when the investors are crying, and they have been, we've been reading the papers, we've been seeing all the reports, that when they see the labor unrest, when they see what's happening in South Africa, particularly with the strike action and the violence that's in the industry, they tend to want to pull back. Even the investors that are in the country already are looking to back out. What message are you sending to them, and how are you consoling them in this time?
Well, I must say that South Africa, it will always be an investor-friendly country.
Sure.
But also, it was tragic for us to experience what we saw last year. And I think all of us are committed, and we've said that we don't want to see that happening. Because it's not just about seeing that, it's about the past. It opens the wounds of the past, and we don't need that during democracy. And I must say that I'm confident we've done many roadshows in talking to investors externally, but also telling them that there are laws in this country. We have a constitution, we have various laws, including labor laws, by the way, which afford an opportunity for workers to strike if they're aggrieved. But definitely there's no space for violence in our country, because all the laws do allow individuals to participate in a peaceful strike. And I must say, we are confident, for instance, as we are here today, that we will continue to engage all parties to find everlasting solution. No one wants to see what has come and has happened in South Africa. I need to share with you, whilst you might be talking about investors who are holding back, we've got a lot of positive investors who intend to come to South Africa. Mining industry, it's on an upward mobility. You know, we had mining in Ndaba not long ago. We've seen many investors in Limpopo, for instance. We have a new mine which is going to come, and 10 billion US dollar has been invested in new discovery of a platinum body in Limpopo. It shows the interest in South Africa. And you must also know that I'm told by geologists that South Africa, we've just mined below 25% of our potential. So we're going to be a mining destination for a very, very long time.
But we've got to deal with the labor issue.
Let me also indicate, I agree with you.
Yes.
I must also indicate, we've also seen an increase in local investment in the mining industry. I agree with you. We've got to deal with the challenges which we are facing as a country, including labor. And that is why we are calling upon NUM, WASA, Solidarity, AMCU to come on board. Because as the president of NUM indicated, we can't afford this. It's
But shouldn't the government be putting a little bit more pressure than saying, let's gather around and let's talk about it? Because we saw just this week that the talking and the signing of the peace accord didn't happen with all the players. So
Well, that's part of
why
the
is government
process.
not pressing more on
Well,
the
it's
unions?
part of the process. Give us an opportunity. It's part of the process. You will see the results. No, it's part of the process.
Okay,
We
I
can't
hear
be
what you're
dismissive.
saying.
We are meeting tomorrow
Yes.
at 9 o'clock. AMCU has committed to be part of that process.
Okay.
And rest assured, it's not about AMCU, it's about the country.
Sure.
And it's not about government, it's about the people of South Africa as a whole. AMCU will have to come on board
Okay.
because it's in the interest of its members. Because pulling away, what message are they sending to their members? If they really represent their members, which I am convinced that they do have members in the various mining companies, for them to come on board, be part of normalization, be part of peace, and make sure that those members can benefit.
Okay, so
because
you'll
the
be
law
following
allows
up
them.
on that.
We're not following up. We're sitting. They have to come on board.
All right.
Action,
Kicking and
action.
screaming, you'll bring them there.
Exactly, they have to come on board.
But Minister, I hear the positive stories or investor confidence stories that you've given us, but that's contrary to what's been reported, particularly for the sector. And I want to ask you, Sis Kangisile, when you hear of a downgrade of Plats or Anglo-American because of Plats partly, does that in the industry send a message that says we're in trouble, or are you as confident as the minister is that there's definitely good vibes in the mining industry?
No, it does send a message of we're in trouble. But having said that, it doesn't mean investors are fleeing and dumping tomorrow and saying we're dumping all our stock and going away. So you need to look at it in both dimensions. And the solutions to ensuring that the investors are not running away as the downgrades happen is to bring peace and stability, as an example, is to demonstrate that South Africa is an investor destination. Remember, when investors, they are not short-sighted in terms of looking at a month or 2 months, they look far ahead. And when Minister is talking about the reserves in the country, when you are investing, and if you have decided that mining as an example, then you cannot ignore South Africa because of the resources, because of the fact that it's such an attractive investor destination. So the challenge is in ensuring that it is the proper environment for investor to thrive, for investment to thrive, for your profits to rise, and all those things. And peace and stability, I don't think we can underestimate the importance of the peace and stability, and the initiative that the minister took in the past week, as you said in your introduction, to ensure that there is peace and stability. Later on you alluded to that, you said snap the process, and that's not our understanding. Our understanding is that they did not sign at the time when we were all signing, but they have come back. They have come back to say, we were still consulting, this is what we'd like to do, and they are meeting within 3 days, and I don't think, to be fair enough, exactly, and that's what we all want, but snubbing is walking out and saying, I'm walking out and I'm not coming back again.
Right.
But that is not an accurate description of it.
What have you as industry put on the table in as far as your demands for bringing the investment in South Africa? So in other words, the high electricity costs, how are you advising the government, for example, to talk to Eskom? What's in that negotiation process?
We have made our input into the NERSA process as the regulator. About 2 weeks ago, our president actually presented the mining industry saying this is too much for us, and demonstrate and literally show the figures that say if we continue on this trajectory, we are not going to make profit. So it's those. Then we also have bilaterals with the various. Bilaterals are very good because you sit face to face and you show your books and you show
everybody. The question is, what are you saying in those bilaterals with government? What are your demands as an industry?
I don't know if you could call it demands because it really is about a negotiation. But it is saying we cannot continue with these costs. If costs triple from 2 years ago and they are now triple, then we are not going to run businesses effectively. So if you want to call it demand, it's to say do not have these increases as steep as you are having them at this stage.
Is the mining sector in trouble? Has it reached its tipping point? That's our question on Interface tonight, and we continue with this discussion right after this break. And thanks for staying with us here on Interface, and thank you for your SMSs. Keep them coming, 33726, as we continue to talk about the platinum mining sector as a whole and seeing what's happening in that sector and what is the way forward. Let's continue this discussion. But Senzeni, double-digit pay increases over the past 5 years. I mean, I was reading a statistic that says remuneration in the platinum sector in particular has risen 12% a year per worker between 2007 and 2012. And industry is saying this is just not sustainable. What are your thoughts?
We always believe that when you look at such increases, you must take into account the background of the industry. Where for many years, up to 1982, mine workers who are black could not negotiate their salaries. They were given whatever percentage by the employers as they wish. We were dealing, therefore, with a very huge wage gap. We're trying to find a solution that will say every mine worker, when he goes home, at least he will be able to meet the demands of the family. He will be able to meet up. Remember, those mine workers, most of them are migrant workers. They support families far away where they are staying. Whenever there is an increase in terms of petrol price, it affects food prices. It affects everything to them.
So when you crunched your numbers and you said, okay, we've had a scenario where our miners were hugely and grossly underpaid for a long time, and now we need to make up for that. It'll take us X number of years to be able to get to some sort of equilibrium. Where was that point?
We remember, every time NUM goes to negotiations, we don't just wake up and say we demand 40,000 rands. We sit down, we analyze the industry, we check at what point is the inflation and other factors involved, and we come with a number. Every time we negotiate with, in most cases, we have not gone to many strikes. I think the one strike with Anglo Platinum, one strike maybe with Impala, we always avert our strikes because we allow negotiations. These 12%, 10% increases were not given because workers just woke up and go on illegal strikes. We always make sure that we work within the system. And remember, the industry was hit very hard since 2008 by the global crisis. But before then, all factors taken together, the companies could afford those salaries. Remember, those were mostly for lowerly paid workers who were paid less than 4,000.
So these numbers and these demands from unions in terms of pay are coming at a time when you've got Plats reporting about 44% decrease in profits. Is that one company, or is it across the sector that we're seeing such huge decreases in profits?
If you look at a number of companies in the mining industry, you will see that there is a decrease across. You know, there are sectors where you don't see it as much, but in iron ore you see the decreases, I think 20, 30%.
So is it fair for unions to be asking for these double-digit price increases or wage increases?
That's when the legacy issues come in, because you know you are saying to people, you are in a new dispensation, your life will be improved, and yet they don't see that. So you need to achieve a balance between increasing gradually until people get to a stage where they really
are they fair in what they're asking for?
I think if negotiated and agreed upon, then the outcome has been fair. In the current climate, we haven't had any demands yet. Negotiations are only, particularly within the platinum sector,
I'm looking over the past 2 to 3 years.
I think the fact that we reached a point as employers and unions, the way we eventually signed, it says that we had put whatever differences we had aside and we eventually signed on an agreement.
All right.
And as the president of NUM was saying, you look forward and you don't look behind. And once you have agreed, it's because you have ironed out all your differences in the process.
Okay. Minister, what's the way forward now? What happens to this sector? What are you rolling up your sleeves and getting down and doing in the sector?
Well, the sector has to thrive. It has to grow. It must contribute towards the economy of this country. It must contribute to job creation, more jobs for our country, Not only that, we need to mine because we've adopted a policy of beneficiation, so there's a future ahead of us when it comes to the mining industry. Specifically when we deal with the issue of the current discussions or negotiations, I must say that yes, AMCU did not sign, but AMCU 2 hours after that sent their proposals and said they are keen to come back with a counter proposal which needs to be included in the agreement. So we open to that. Okay. We cannot say we've signed yesterday, the door is shut. We've got to say, come, let's talk. I am positive. We're meeting tomorrow morning at about 9 o'clock with all stakeholders, and I am positive that ultimately AMCU wants a peaceful solution.
Okay.
They want to exist in the mining industry, and they do have members.
And you're saying government has ideas for the employers?
Well,
to
we
say
do
this is
have
how we can sort things
exactly,
out.
we have ideas. Let me separate the two. We have a process of Anglo Plats, where we're dealing with the issue of retrenchment or intended retrenchments.
Okay.
We're dealing with the issue of peace and stability for the mining industry as a whole. That's where we need to bring AMCU on board.
I hear you, Minister. Thank you so much to all three of you for coming through to talk to us. We've run out of time terribly. And thank you for joining us. Thank you for your SMSs. Remember that you can keep the conversation going. Email us, interfaceon3@sabc.co.za. Join us again next time. Good night.